My name is Sway. I'm a first year in grad school.
Hi, my name is Tess. I'm currently the interim director of communications and administrative department.
Hi, my name is Kalechi. I'm a senator and administrator.
Hi, Zach Tainsworth. I'm a senator and Pronouns.
Buchanan, I'm a finance board representative. I'm not a voting member at this time.
I'm Jared, the senator who serves the speaker.
I'm Robbie. I'm the secretary to Chance Martinez. Here, Brown. This is director for leadership and governance officer as the state advisor.
Again, Carter, senator of Sheena Footing.
Patrick Reed, senator, he, him, his pronouns.
Miles, friend, he, him, pronouns.
Okay, that's great. Yep. Alright, so now would you mind giving us just a quick introduction?
Sure. So I have been involved in SGA since the beginning of last semester. I started off as the coordinator of graphic design, and then I was promoted to associate director of communications. I have been interim director since the beginning of the semester, so I've already spent about a month doing directorial duties, leading meetings, doing one-on-one meetings with the department, and I'm still currently producing all graphic design material for SGA. Outside of SGA, I am an intern with the Center for Democracy and Civic Life, and I'm a graphic designer at Comvision. And yeah, I'm excited and hopeful for this role.
Thank you. Alright. So, anyone want to open us up with a question?
I just moved us over.
Actually, I mean, kind of along that, because I don't have concerns.
That's fair.
Sounds like we're moving to discussion.
Is everybody in favor of moving to discussion? General consent? Okay. Does anyone have any concerns they'd like to voice or any good things they'd like to say?
That's already both of those. Just compensate.
Alright. Yeah. Is there a motion?
Is it moved to approve?
Yes, it is.
SL 39-1819?
Second.
Bet.
Alright. Alright, so.
No, we have to vote on it. We have to vote on it.
So, number of senators, 4.
One yes.
Just
We're missing one, right?
Yeah.
And Francis, too.
And Kai.
Francis, too.
Kai has an exam today, I think. So, that's why he's
That can't have been your first.
She may have said something to
I
me
said it all
last
the
week.
time, but this is my first one.
I don't know if I have it in like word form. I'll talk to her. And with that, the motion passes. So.
Justice is served.
All right.
That's
where you end. Okay. So, raise your hand. So, I do solemnly affirm that I will faithfully execute the office of Director of Department of Communications
the office of Director of Department of Communications
of the UMBC Student Government Association
of the UMBC Student Government Association
and will,
and will,
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability,
promote and defend
promote and defend
the interests and well-being
the interests and well-being
of UMBC's undergraduate students.
of UMBC's undergraduate students.
All right, congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, I guess you can pursue into it.
I'm just going to send you a letter with the updated figure.
Okay, sounds good.
Thanks for coming, guys.
Congratulations!
Thanks.
Got away. Oh, I was like,
Thanks, son.
Yeah.
All right. So,
I was just some way more happy you said that.
all right, next updates. So, first up, Human Relations Committee.
good. No, so I met on Friday morning very early in admin with some stakeholders from the Relations Committee. It went well. I think everyone is very much, even like the staff, faculty staff seemed on board, their representatives seemed on board with what we were planning on making. I'm going to bring hopefully a more concrete example of exactly what we are going to be doing, hopefully by the end of the semester. But I just want to let everyone know that this committee seems like it may be maybe on the comeback. So we are very excited about that. And the idea right now is sort of just to have it as like a prolonged advisory committee that meets not too frequently, but enough to be effective that really tries to address a lot of issues on campus and how humans relate to each other on campus, which is kind of what we discussed a lot. So, yeah, you got them kind of what? That's all I have for that. That kind of showed to the undergraduate council. So, undergraduate council. Nothing, again, like, as always, nothing too crazy. There was some new classes added, political science changed up, a couple of their minors. Nothing too big. You guys ever had feedback though for classes that you want to see, or classes that you're concerned about, anything like that? Feel free to bring those fans first of all to say today, because they can contact departments about that if there's like actually serious problems with the classes, of course. So if you have anything like that, text me. We can talk offline. For my office hours at 3 o'clock on Thursday.
Question?
Yes.
Does that include like starting class? Like beginning the classes?
Less so. That'd be like more of a department, because like they don't make classes, the departments set them classes, but it's definitely something that can be like worked out, I'm sure. Yeah. Hey, sorry.
Good.
Yes, sorry. Got it.
Cool. Anybody have any questions or anything? No? Okay. Cool. Next is USC. So I went to USC, and a couple things. So one is they had a speaker come in talking about confidentiality on campus, that there's this, or he said that generally on campus they have this general understanding that all records are supposed to be public and that everything is transparent, and that's actually not the case. All like personnel records are confidential, and one thing that they talked about was there was certain, whenever incidents happen at the university, right? For example, well, I don't know if that's a good example, but whenever an incident happens at the university and the source that incident happened to, whoever's suing the campus, right? That person, they can tell the news whatever that they want to tell them, but the university's not technically allowed to make a statement about that in public at all, because that's all like classified. So the only way the university can make that statement is during the lawsuit and the things that ensue, because that's the only time that they can sort of respond in their fashion. So it was just sort of the idea that, like, even if news articles are saying certain things about the university, because it's a public institution, it's not necessarily allowed to combat things that it doesn't think is true, and it has to wait till the actual case is finalized and whether or not, and however it settles. But they talked about how that always just ends badly for the university, because if something gets said about them, they can't really defend themselves. So even if it's not true. So, and it only resolves usually after the whole fiasco happened, when like the lawsuit like folds over. And yeah, so that was just what they talked about. And then with Retriever Courage, they have an anonymous link for anybody who wants to submit anonymously to Retriever Courage about like their concerns, and that closes on March 15th. That'll be on the website. And there also is a map of where the all gender restrooms are supposed to go. That's online. I don't know if that's on the Retriever Courage website. It is? No? Okay. But I know it is somewhere online. I don't know exactly where it is.
How is it on facilities?
Maybe. But just there's a map. If you want, Tom can probably help you find it. Any of you want to get it. And then with regards to sexual violence training discussions that are happening on campus, there was a concern that it would only happen through online trainings, and there's an ongoing discussion about how do you make it so that we can do it in person, or have it be more impactful than just a click through some website that people have to do. But then there was also the difficulty of how do you get every student at the university to do an in-person training? Like the amount of resources that would take and the amount of coordination that would take would just be astronomical. So figuring out that whole conflict. Also, Human Relations Committee is getting their name changed, or they're making a name change to Human Relations Advisory Committee because they don't do human relations, they just advise. And yeah, that's pretty much all the updates from USC. Yeah.
Who announced that?
I think it was.
Was it GSA or was it someone from faculty / staff?
What? I don't remember exactly. But yeah.
So what was the name change?
They were going to change Human Relations Committee to Human Relations Advisory Committee.
Okay.
Or at least they're talking about it.
The anonymous thing for the treatment courage, what is that exactly?
So, for people who want to submit like their stories or suggestions to Retrieve for Courage anonymously, there's a link that closes March 15th on their website. Okay. So that's all the updates I have for USC. All right, so next is initiative updates. So, that Tim, should we start us off?
Yeah, basically, I just continued the conversation with the Retriever Essentials team about spreading awareness on campus about their organization. They followed up. They wanted me to confirm. They said they told Colin about a survey that they want students to take and that they want sent out through the listserv. So I contacted Colin about that, and he gave me an email for the SGA group. And I emailed that, and it said that maybe I wasn't added in the group, or I couldn't, or maybe the email was disactivated. So I don't know about why I couldn't email that.
Yeah, so was it the SGA General?
It was group, SGA group at UMBC.
Yeah, so that feeds in from the My UMBC page. So if you haven't joined the SGA My UMBC page, you're not going to be doing that.
Okay, so I'll join the page. Thanks. So yeah, I'm joining the page, and yeah, and then I'm planning on meeting with probably Tess to further figure out how we can work. I can work with the communications department and put the word out there about the organization. And they want to have a meeting again after spring break with me and possibly any other senators that are interested in their program and want to take part, because they have some events coming up that they need advocacy for, and maybe just ideas and stuff. So if anybody's interested, just contact me.
Yeah. Just as a side note,
Yeah.
do you have end goal for this semester that you want to accomplish?
Yeah. So this semester, I'm hoping that basically the long-term goal, besides right now I'm working on the short-term goals about the advocacy and everything, but the long-term goal.
Well, for this semester.
Yeah, for this semester, basically, I'm trying to work with them. They want to find a space to have a pantry on the campus.
You're trying to find that space?
Find that space, yeah.
Okay.
So, and they need to get some more resources for the food pantry, so like fridges and different stuff like that. So maybe working on the funding for that.
Okay, cool.
Okay, so an hour ago I found out I was approved to do a mental health forum / panel by the Mosaic Center, so I'm really happy about that. And so I'm going to be working with them and as well as SGA, trying to put that into action. And Erin, she works with the Mosaic Center, she said she's going to send me more information about it. So she said she's going to send it to me no later than Wednesday, so I'm waiting on that. I told you the date and the time, right? Okay, yeah. And then I also reached out to this organization called the Steve Fund. I reached out to their board members. It's an organization that focuses on promoting mental health within communities of color. So I was trying to see if I could get some people off of their board to come and be part of the panel and come talk to the students. And I'm also trying to work with, I reached out to some professors on campus as well, like some psychology professors. So yeah, I'm just waiting to hear back from them.
Awesome.
What was the name of the first organization you discussed? You said STEAM?
Oh, the Steve Fund.
STEAM. STEAM.
All right, great.
So, I had a conversation with Vlad today to follow up with what we were talking about before. He wanted to give me more context. And so we'll be meeting later this week. But I don't have too much to update from last week.
Okay.
Yeah. And moving forward would look like I want to reach out to students in OCSS and students in transfers, like same as before. It's actually good.
All right. Patrick.
Yes, so I will be attending a meeting on the 14th, so Thursday night, with the PR subcommittee for SAC and trying to continue our work on interacting with police. Yeah.
Do you have an end goal for the semester? Before you talked about potentially getting a table for involvement fest for the police.
I was just gonna say, that'd be like next semester. I won't be here, but hopefully,
That's true.
hopefully some kind of tabling event either in. Actually, you know what? It's getting one out the breezeway. That's my end goal for the semester. I want them to table in the breezeway.
Just talk to students.
Yeah, like come talk to a police officer, commercial officers.
Coffee with cops.
Boom, boom, boom. There we go.
Coffee with cops.
I'll use my mission.
CNC.
Don't use that. Okay. But no, I mean.
CD.
No, that's the movie. Yeah, donuts.
Kid?
No.
Why don't you put it on the patio to get more space?
Yeah, that's great.
Also, so
All right.
route people won't feel like they're being corralled by police in the breezeway.
Terrace. Yeah.
So I feel like that it provides more. Like I feel like people interact more with people in the breezeway than on the what is it? Patio.
Depending on your signature.
Yeah.
Where's the patio?
Do we have an initiative
On the
on
other side.
Yes.
There's this.
When you come to the breezeway,
Wow.
that's the.
We have
patio.
money.
We have over 10 done.
I think my $10,000 for donuts.
Huh? Well, because we share the initiative.
Yeah.
but Patrick, so get a date, okay?
Yeah.
Work on the date.
Absolutely. And it'll probably be like towards the end of this semester. Yeah.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
Get the date down so you know what you're planning for.
Absolutely.
This one?
Are you the person that like feels just like Are you the person?
I think it's me and Colin, and Pepper, me and Brenda, I can't remember who press check.
Oh, from SGA.
No, I don't do all the space. No.
Wait, do you have access?
She is the lady to go to.
I have access to 25.
Do you have access?
I do for a different organization.
Interesting. That's very interesting.
Fine.
I think we should have access to 25.
Meaning?
Sorry.
Yes?
Same as before, same stuff. I'm just waiting game right now.
For scheduling meetings?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, have people gotten back to you?
Yeah, it's just scheduling.
Oh, so you're still, do you have any meeting time set?
No, because a lot of them were, like, Dan was out on vacation.
Yeah.
And with Len, I believe is my contact. That is, just things have gotten confusing. So I think,
Okay.
especially because spring break is coming up, that's where it's, so I'm aiming to set all these meetings for the week after spring
All right.
break.
Get meeting set this week.
Yeah.
Okay. Or at least send another, like, email, right? But
Yeah, I'll give them my availability for the week after spring break, so we can set that in stone.
all right, cool. Okay, that's everyone there. So, next order of business is the finance board discussion. So, here's the situation. Finance board is officially out of the money. Okay. So, that said, we have our initiative fund, all right, which is $2,500, which they are not letting us use for like Senate stuff. Do we want to? There's a couple things we could do. We could give it to an org and do an SGA co-sponsored event. We could give it straight to finance board to let them allocate the orgs, or we could do nothing. Just discuss. You don't throw your hand.
Can I get like a speed run on what happened? Like what happened? How big on
Oh, they just allocate.
Gave up their money.
Oh, okay.
I don't think that those are our only options.
Okay, well, I mean, those are just a couple ideas.
So wait, let me get this straight. Finance board is out of money. They won't let us use that money. Now they want us to give them that money.
Well, they didn't ask for it. They didn't ask for it. It's just, do we want to do it?
No. And I think it's important to say that it's not that they won't, that high school won't let you use that money. Because you can use that money for initiatives.
Right.
Like let an officer get to know you, right? I think that they said, I'm trying to rephrase copy and copy. That they said no to the jail about expanding the language around your usage of that money. So categorizing it as saying finance board will let you use that money is a misrepresentation of what they said. They use it for initiatives. They won't let you expand that scope. That's a better phrase. But they haven't asked for money from something.
So when they ask, you give an answer.
Well, I mean, we have money. Like we have that pot, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's just, I mean, that's one avenue that we could do it, you know. If we get, so like the idea is to give them like, pretty much like the full 2,500, maybe. Is it any number, like that's like, is it, we can give them as much or as little as we want. So then like, if we give them all of that and like, I put somehow buying coffee for cups, like, where does that?
This one.
That's $10,000.
Okay.
Cool. This is all like extra.
Yeah.
Scott, do you have any thoughts? If I can invite Scott to speak.
Sure. Open discussion.
I appreciate that. I didn't know that we prevented you guys from using the money in any way because we never saw the legislation to change the language in the first place. I don't know if that was Daniel's decision or something.
Wait.
I wasn't there.
Interesting.
Wait, I'm stuck.
I don't understand that if we did something.
Okay.
Oh, no,
I appreciate the support and would be more fun.
That was my next question, was like, because I know you guys use a lot of money that you have. There's a lot of stuff you guys have to fund. Would $2,500 make a difference for an organization to like have an event or not, or is it just going to be like?
Absolutely.
It could fund like a big event or a few small events.
Okay. Yeah.
I think if we do that, then if it will make a difference, then I feel like it should be co-sponsored with SGA. So people can, not so they can stop saying, but just for us to make our presence known, like, this is vis-a-vis SGA and this other group.
Aren't all of them stuff?
So
You would think.
I mean, they are.
But nobody,
That's true.
so this will, we have to put our name on it, and be like, that's us right there. I mean, they're here too, but like, that's us.
It also brings to mind there was the incident last semester, I think, with it was Mel's place? Oh, yes. The acapella group that wanted to kind of do it, and there was like, the idea that we would, and it's not we, but like somebody here would like have like a, was it a co-sponsored event? Was I correct in that? Like, so it was proposals? Okay. I mean, I don't have any problem with it either way, but if that, I definitely think it's an idea to like hold on to it. Like,
Yeah, I mean, as your advisor, I would say that probably the best, if you are considering reallocating funds from your initiative line for student orgs, to reallocate it to finance board to disperse. Because they have a stronger grasp, because they deal with it every day, of what students come in for, what they need, what, how many student orders are sitting in the queue, where the best bang for the buck would be.
That's interesting.
So, but that, I mean, that's for you to decide if you want to have that conversation.
It's also up to your discretion whether to give us that money or not, but if you choose not to, I encourage you to actually spend all of it to support student organizations.
Colin, how much money is still in the initiative fund? Has any of the exec council used it? Do you know?
So there's 2 pots that I pulled from for the Cringe initiatives that up to $20,000. I think I have spent 500, and I think I have another $3,500 coming out before spring break.
Okay.
You said that you would encourage us, like if we didn't get any money, to encourage us to spend it on student initiative or student organizations. I feel like if we gave the money to finance what it would be spent for a similar thing, it wouldn't really.
I think if you choose to delegate or do it yourself, which is either way, like you're helping the campus and not letting that money sit for the rest of the semester.
My only thing is I don't want to give it to finance board for them to just do what they normally do, because it's not their normal fund that they're working with. This is money that was set aside, that's set aside for Senate, and we're choosing as a senatorial body to then give that to somebody else who needs it. So why should our name not be on it? Because I'm thinking of this in the marketing sense, and that's the biggest problem with SGA is people not knowing who we are. And then we have an opportunity, but then we're just gonna do what we normally do, just let them handle it, and still not get, I don't wanna say credit, but in a way, yes. Because we need that positive publicity, and I just feel like that's a way for us to do it. I feel like finance board should be able to like let us know like who's in the queue, and we'll see what event is, more pressing or whatever we decide to vote on. But like that's just my opinion. I just feel like we should do more of a co-collaborative sponsorship or donation or whatever than to just give it to finance board, because it's not their regular money to work with in person.
I think they do a queue of people who need that money, right? It's like Scott was saying, like you could do a big event, like a few small events. Like they already have the people that need it. You know what I mean?
That's what I'm saying. So for them to tell us who needs it.
Yeah. But like I feel like that's like they exist for that reason. You know what I mean? It's like they
with their money.
For sure, but like I mean, it's like it's all SGA money, right? We're like, what are the odds that we're going to use that 2,500? I don't think that's ever been fully used. Correct me if I'm wrong. By like any Senate ever. So like, hearing Scott's point on like the fact that it would make a difference to a few people, like a few organizations. Now, I would like to hear that, like, and it's not really 100% my business, but like, are you guys gonna like use the same allocation process you've been using if we were to like give the 2,500, or is that like would it change up like how would you prioritize? Like, I don't know how many you have in queue. How would you prioritize kind of who that money goes to? Just like because it's not a lot of money. You know what I mean?
The finance board allocates money based on first come, first serve,
Okay.
and we have a queue of organizations. I think it already made, so it would go in order of people who submitted their allocation request first.
Yeah.
Is it possible to write in like legislation or whatever that when we give this money for finance board to use, that the person that it goes to, that they have to put the SGA like logo on it?
I mean,
I'm dead ass serious about it.
no. Also, final point without a motion to extend the conversation.
So I have a lot of thoughts, per usual. I was trying to stay silent, but it's just my cat, I'm sorry. So I think it's a really good conversation for you all to think about how you want to spend your Senate allocation, because you all as a body have the right to do whatever you want with that money. Frankly, any money that you choose to legislate. but there's a couple things that I'm worried about. One, if you go the route of let's move the money over to the finance board pot, I think that's a noble thing to do to help student organizations, and I think that's good. I think the narrative of we need to make sure that it's a SGA co-sponsorship, I think you're getting into murky territory because, it's, why are we doing this? We're doing this because we want student organizations to do well, and we want to promote campus life, so it shouldn't just be about us. So I would say if you're going down that route, I would say we're doing this because it's the right thing to do, not because this is a publicity stunt to make SGA look good. On the other hand, if you're going down the route of maybe we shouldn't do this, or if you're like thinking about that and not feeling comfortable, I would say, one, this isn't normal. I have not been here where Senate has allocated their funds to go to the finance board pot. Two, I would also say that the Senate would be giving some of its power up of saying that we can make initiatives happen and allocate from line items in the budget and put that in legislation, whereas the finance board is a little more stringent on having a finance board pot. It almost feels like, to me, if you were saying no and you're going down that route, and I'm not saying which one to go because I think it's a conversation for you all, it feels like a little bit of a cop-out for finance board because finance board, to be frank, and I've said this before, finance board has put themselves in this situation, right? And that is their job, that they have to see all these org requests come throughout the year, and they are the ones that have to say, this event that's fully funded, partially funded, or not funded at all. That is their job. So I think that's a conversation for you all to have, but just know that that's kind of either you fund them and you're okay because it's the right thing to do, or you don't fund them because finance board effectively did not do as good of a job as it could have allocated student dollars.
Was there a motion to extend the conversation?
Yeah, motion to extend the conversation by like 5 minutes.
All right.
On today.
So, one thing I want to say is that the other option that we can do is we can just have, we can have an org come here and like try to make it a co-sponsored event, because if we allocate the money specifically to an org, why are you shaking your head? No, you shaking. Okay, whatever.
Well, do you mind if I say why I'm shaking my head? Or is that just real quick? Because they exist for that reason. Like, I don't want to give us a bunch of start loading stuff on our plate for like the reason if they're like, and like love you, but like just kind of sitting around just like doing other stuff that like isn't really in their purview while they could be allocating that money. Do you know what I mean?
Well, there's no issue of a precedent. Well, there could be if we don't zero out the line item.
Sean?
Then just
yeah, so I totally support finance board running from United States this year, but I feel like it would be a bit off to just like leave them out in open water without something to take them out. But personally, I think we should give them money and just give them like a free pass for the year, but make them like run the United States. It's like, hey, we'll give you this money to bail you out. Just don't make this mistake next year.
I think it would be inappropriate if Senate just became finance board, kind of calling awards into here to listen to them. I have the list of awards in order that I can provide if you guys want to know the order we'll be funding awards. But if you choose to do co-sponsored events, it would be appropriate to have SJ branding on that end. But for that, you would not ask boards to come here. For that, you would go out and be like, I want to do this type of event. Who can I partner with?
Well, with that, we can, like, one thing, we want to maybe, well, I don't know how this would come across, but an idea is we want a better relationship with Mama's Boys. Call Mama's Boys and be like, hey guys, we want to make it up to you last year. Got this pod.
That's like.
Did they get funded?
No, they
didn't?
did not get any funding. It is held over our heads every day.
When was this?
This is last year. It's that. That's a.
My point that I'm gonna say care about finance board in regards to this conversation, and the sense of they have their money, they put themselves in this position. To me, that's something separate. Right now, we have $2,500, and we can use that to help students. I want to help students and Patrick get his life together. But my thing is responsibility and ownership is what I'm more looking at it from, in the sense of putting SGA's name on it, because we decided to give this money, not to like glorify ourselves or anything like that. But so often students will say, SGA don't do nothing, SGA don't do nothing. And here's our chance to be able to be like, we have the money for it. We see that they are doing whatever they're doing over their finance board, but we saw that you were nice. We decided to allocate this money to you for you to put on your event, which will show students and other student orgs like, oh my God, SGA is not stuck up their own ass, whatever. Like, you see what I'm saying? So it's not in the sense to be like, oh my gosh, we gotta put our name on everything, or we have to, be out there. It's more or less to just show students without faltering, like, look, we are here to service you. Like, we're here to represent you. We have the money for it. They are messed up over there, but you were next, so what we have, we're able to give to you. That's what I'm seeing it as. Nothing more, nothing less. Like, just putting SGA on it just to be able to show that presence on campus, not to really like glorify or boast ourselves up.
Yeah, okay, so speaking with like limited knowledge on this, given the fact that finance board already like went through their allotted money allocation, if they're given that 25,000, you said that
2,500.
25.
Promise.
Oh, 2,500.
Yeah.
Okay, so given that,
Given that
2,500, like what, besides the list of organizations that get that funding, like what changes between that funding from last semester and now, or from this year that was used and now? Like what do you, like, are all orgs gonna get money, or are you just gonna give 2,500 to the first org, or like what happens? Like how is that? What changes, basically?
All right, is there another motion to extend the discussion? Patrick?
Final motion to is like extend like 2 minutes.
For a final point? Is there a second for a final point?
Second.
All right, Patrick.
I would like to make a real quick point. I'll hopefully have time for somebody else to do if they want. But just really quickly, like, I definitely understand what you're saying, like, Brandy, but like I go to some of the cultural events on campus frequently, and like no one there has ever been like, oh, like, let me look at the brand for this. It's just like you kind of like you go and like you're not paying, like, even if the SGA logo is big as heck, like right there on the front door, it's sort of like they're not gonna like us anymore or less. Like, you know what I mean? Like I feel like it's important that we should be confident in kind of like the work that we do the best we can. Sometimes we mess up, but like I feel like trying to help them, like one event is gonna be like, oh, like actually it does really work. Like we kind of messed up this year, so it's like, all right, but like I feel like we should try to be confident in like our ability to get work done to the point where we don't have to like we feel like we shouldn't have to prove ourselves to the community like in that way. Like yeah, like I think other ways by like making tangible efforts like improve quality of life on campus, get our initiatives done, like do all the stuff we're trying to do to help people. But I feel like I don't know, it's something that, like I think I learned in from like a motivational speaker or something, but like we should be the last ones to take credit for the stuff that student boards do, because that's their shit, right? As what we want to be like the leaders on campus, we want to be like the role models, all like the cool stuff that we try to do in SGA of like, oh, like, you know, we try to lead as best as we can, like help the student body. We should be the last ones to take credit for what the South Asian Student Association is putting on, because like although it's our money, they're doing that work, and if it's us trying to like lead by like setting a good example for campus or whatever we do up here, like I think we shouldn't feel like we have to like put our brand on it because it's their show. You know what I mean? That's just my opinion. That's my perspective.
But so much so, when you are the bigger person, you are being the leader, you forget to give yourself credit. So So that's what I'm saying. We so much so SGA is giving. We don't ask for nothing. You get so much backfire for all this stuff. And then that's just comes with the job, and that's understandable, but don't forget to give yourself credit where it's due. And I'm just saying, here's something that we are stepping outside of ourselves, setting aside things so that the student orgs can prosper, because at the end of the day, that's what we're here for. And just putting a small logo in branding is subconscious. Whether you know that you saw it or not, in your memory, it's going to be there that it happened. So that's taking steps into putting more of a presence on campus. And you can't have confidence when you have nothing to stand on. And I feel like we don't have anything to stand on right now.
Right.
That's my way.
So is there a straw poll? I want to do a straw poll to see if we want to bring this back up next meeting. Okay? Because we didn't really get anything tangible out of that discussion. So we're going to vote. So all in favor of bringing it up next meeting? Well, ideally, like we do something with our. We're either gonna, or we can do something, or we can not do something, right?
Do you have legislation for you?
Not yet.
Okay, then you can't do it.
Right. Whoa. So. All right. Well.
I mean, unless you have like a giant cardboard check that's.
All right. Yeah, I think we should draft legislation on this and then discuss it when we kind of actually vote on it.
But we got to figure out like what we want to draft.
I feel like that's what we have office hours for.
Okay, we'll talk about it. I'll bring something to the next meeting that we can actually vote on. Okay. Cool.
Can I add one last thing? Sorry. I know you're gonna die.
Cool. Sorry. Next is budgetary forum. Alright, no one's here for budgetary forum, so.
Alright, you did this.
Only budget related things are allowed to be said. Is what you have to say budget related.
FY19 budget, not FY20 budget. Does the proc rules say whether or not it's good for full year's budget?
Yourself. Like,
we're moving on to
I'm thinking of the proc rules, Mr. Speaker. Listen, it doesn't say anything about which fiscal year.
all right, next on the agenda is the approval, or is the approval of the budget.
All right. Let's.
Only comments related to the SGA budget will be permitted.
Can we have a vote amongst the Senate whether we should discuss FY19 or FY20?
Yes, go All right, all in favor of discussing FY19 at the budget forum? All right. We're moving on to the budget.
There we go.
Wow.
I told you I got that today.
So here is the legislation, and right here is the final budget proposal. Get to work. So we discussed this last meeting, and a couple of the highlights are, number one, the retriever's back up to 60,000, because SAFRB will not be passing any budget that doesn't include $60,000 to the retriever, though we have generated an MOU that states a couple conditions on which, if the retriever does not uphold to those, or we're drafting it, but if they don't uphold to those conditions, then our budget will be lowered to $45,000 next year. Yeah.
Why was the retriever not going to get 60,000 in the first place?
So the retriever's reserves were super high, and because of that, we're trying to lower their budget to get to help train their reserves so that we can use that money elsewhere. But essentially, we're going to try and, with the MOU, we're trying to help them manage that internally first before we we actually cut their budget all the way down, or at least that's what we talked about with the administration. Or Colin, I mean, talked more about it. Is there anything you want to add to that?
No.
Okay. And that, so that happened. Also, stipends were cut down. Patrick.
Has that MOU been signed by the two?
It's supposed to be signed this week. Also, so the signers of the MOU would be me, Julia Arbutus, who's editor-in-chief, Dan Barnhart, director of campus life, and Teresa. Yep, Teresa. Yep. Kathy. That's great. Teresa, who? Huh? Yep. She's the director for Student Affairs Business Services Center, and more importantly, she is the convener for SAFRB.
And then, yeah, also stipends were reduced from the last budget. So I think some of the big positions lost, I think, 1 credit, which was $494, so about $500. Senate, I think, lost 2, so it went from $4,500 to $3,500 now, same with Finance Board. Also, the speaker stipend and the assistant speaker stipend are now just 1 credit instead of 0.5 and 0.25, so, or extra. Are there any other big changes I'm forgetting, Colin? Okay. So last meeting we talked about it, and we were pretty much okay with everything in the budget, but we talked about potentially draining out the Senate allocations to 0. Is there any comments on that, or is there any other places in the budget that we want to consider? Patrick?
So sorry, I'm taking a lot of air today. But
Well, we got 30 minutes for this, so.
Okay. Good. Let me know. But so can you clarify like where? So again, we're going back to the coffee with cops. If we needed money for initiatives, where would we receive money from if we zero that out?
So here's the initiative fund. This analysis broken, but here's the initiative fund.
Oh yeah. Okay. That's yeah. I would like to see that.
Can I respond a little bit further?
Sure.
So, okay, so the way that you would do it, that no matter what, like the pact gets signed off on, is if you have a piece of Senate legislation that says SL 49-1819 expenditure of coffee and costs, you make an actual thing, and then you say in the last line, therefore be it resolved, we are allocating $500 from line B33 initiative fund from the SGA budget to cover these expenses. So if that passed the Senate, then it has to be spent from that money. Or you could just work with the president and get a res gas if you don't actually want to pass that legislation. Either one work. The Senate legislation is pretty binding though.
Wait, I have a question.
Yeah. The request for expenditure of SGA funds, so it's the form that you have to fill out when you want to spend money.
All right. So first of all, are there any other line items besides the initiative fund then that we want to talk about specifically? All right, cool. So with the initiative fund, I would personally like to amend that line item and move all that money to the initiative fund, like the Senate allocations fund, move all the Senate allocations to the initiative fund. Because I feel like with the Senate allocations, it's just money that we typically don't use every year, and we don't really have a purpose for it. So I think just putting it in some other pot where it could get used, instead of putting it into its own like multi-use pot that's like for a bunch of weird edge cases, would be better. What do you guys think? You like that? Patrick?
Well, like, we don't use that money. So, what? We can. No, like, so we're making $2,500 from this allocation and we're putting it into a $10,000 pot already. Like, we don't use all $10,000, do we?
That gets used from executive branch too, right?
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's really, that's the main pot of money that when we make something happen on campus, that's where it's coming from. So I'd say, usually it's about 75 to 100% used on average.
Okay, all right. Yeah, right.
I move to amend. Well, first of all, I move to amend line 39, or I moved to amend B33 Initiative Fund from 10,000 proposed to 11, I think it's 11,150 or 250.
Oh, bite me.
All right, so all in favor?
Is that not right?
So we did. It's right now. It's not at 250 for the. It's not proposed at 2,500. It's proposed at half of that. So this would be. So that passes, but this would be. This is now. That. And then I also move to amend. Where is it? Here, Senate line or budget line item 824 Senate additional allocations fund from. Yeah, from or to $0 on this one. So all in favor? Opposed?
No one seconded it.
Oh.
Second.
Is it a second? Okay. All in favor? I'll try this.
Sleep.
Oh, sleepy. Sleep.
That's good.
All right.
Nice.
No. Are you so crazy? And then just highlighting cool. All right. So, is there any other parts of the budget that you guys want to talk about? Scott?
I'd like to hear the Senate's view on the funding for DCL and the funding for the retriever.
What's DCL?
Center for Democracy and Civic Life.
Oh.
Well, where would that be?
The center is under, yeah.
Which one?
No, it's keep going. It's right down on the bottom three.
Yeah,
It's like,
I'm not very-
no, you're not. Keep on. There you go. Too much. Yep. Yep. Yep.
There we go.
Wow.
Isn't that for his salary, right? What's it for?
So to my understanding, SGA wants to provide $19,500 to partner with DCL, basically mostly for Strive. If all of this money is used for Strive, and I've been told that it might be, that would be funding basically a professional development conference at around $300+ a head. Members of Finance Board usually do not fund professional development conferences at that much. So this is a unique use of money from SGA for a partnership with the on-campus learning.
Yeah.
I just came from Strive, so it's pretty fresh in my memory. I think it's worth the money, and the development that it offers students, especially underclassmen, to then be able to bring that leadership that they learned from Strive to bring it back on campus and be more, what's the word? Useful humans. And that's not what I was trying to say, but that's the essence of the word that I was looking for.
It is an on-campus event?
No,
It's off campus?
they go off campus to retreat, but these are still students, so they gotta come back from the spring semester, and I think it is a learning experience that if we could afford it, I feel like every student should do. how much do they give for Strive now?
If we look
Say on the
back, it was
list.
previously like
$16,000.
consolidated. To what?
It was previously $16,000. I think specifically with the work that the Center for Democracy and Civic Life does, I think that there is a high return on investment in terms of the amount of student dollars spent and the amount of activity that the people that go through those processes give back to the community.
And for those of you who don't know, Pangea came from Strive, attendee. If you don't know what Pangea is, then
The criticism that I've heard from students who've talked to me about the specific line item that is basically $20,000 going to 60 students, and that's very concentrated use of the student activity.
Oh no.
do they know Strive is?
Only 60 people go each year, so not really.
All right, then they should go, then they should find it.
There is an accessibility issue though. There's not a lot of people that can go.
To Strive?
Because there's only 60 people a year.
I recognize that. I actually want to speak to that as well. I think that there are two different things that I want to say here. The first being that the people that I've met that have done Strive are some of the people I look up to most in my life that I've met here at UMBC. And a lot of them credit that kind of stuff, the stuff they learned to Strive. So I think that needs to be taken into account. Like, it really builds, I think, a lot of leaders who come back and give a lot to this community. Yes, it's only 60 people, but I think on my second point is like, I think you start messing with those numbers. The way I understand Strive to work, and I correct me if I'm wrong because I haven't been there, but it's like you spend a lot of time doing like on activities and like stuff like that. So I think that the dynamics that would change if you start increasing people could take away from the experience that those people have. And that's just based on like kind of knowledge of like how groups interact, right? Like if you start bringing 150, 200 people, it changes the bond that you share with that person, because you're not going to be able to spend as much time with 200 people as you are with 60. So kind of creating those bonds, I think, is an important part of the leadership aspect, and kind of like how you relate to other people is really an important part of learning how to be an effective leader. I'm familiar with the complaints that you're talking about. That I'll let you guys check the meme page. A lot of them are on there today. So it's definitely something that, like, I'm familiar with the arguments that are being made. I definitely understand that it kind of seems like we're sending off this elite 60 people to be trained on SGA student time and then come back and that's. I don't think that matches with the reality of kind of what we're aiming to do. And it took me a lot to restrain myself from saying that, yeah, it's a student dollar, but these are the people that started SGA, that you attend the events that they've created. That we do things that they've helped set precedent and legacy for, and you just kind of take it for granted and then want to sort of mess with the program when some people I feel like didn't understand kind of all the facts that come with that. The guy that started Pangea, I'm very close with, he accredits that 100% his experience at Strive. He met people at Strive that made it possible for him to create Pangea.
But he doesn't solely create Pangea, let's give credit.
No, that's what I mean, but he met the people that, that's what I mean though, without Strive, he wouldn't have had the network for the other people to come in to help him and for him to help them create Pangea, which is a cornerstone of our welcome week and the stuff we do. I think people deserve to do well. So that's just my 2 pieces on that, but I really think it's an important program.
I just have a clarification question. So is the proposal that Strive is just canceled and all that money is moved to the Center for Democracy and Civic Life? What's the
so that line item includes the money for Strive. It's just renamed.
So is the discussion just low,
to reduce it?
To reduce it?
What? Yeah, Strive was at 16,000 before.
So.
How did the line item end up being that specific amount?
Yeah. So, a few things. So Miles, I think the question that you're trying to ask, so Strive used to be under Student Life, and then Student Life died, and now Strive is with us. Oh, well, sorry. Strive is now with the Center for Democracy and Civic Life. So regardless of funding, it would have had to be $0 because that line item was under the Student Life heading, and it needed to be under the Center for Democracy and Civic Life heading. So it had to be changed anyway. So for full disclosure, David and I began having conversations in December. He was first trying, and I've talked about this with our other university co-sponsorships. So I think there are good things that are on campus, and I think that SGA is a good place to be kind of the starter fund, but we should not be the forever fund, right? The Center for Democracy and Civic Life, this is effectively their first year. So in December, David actually asked me if SGA would be comfortable using our funds to pay the salary of a full-time coordinator at the Center for Democracy and Civic Life, which would probably, with salary plus benefits, probably put us in the neck of the woods of $50,000 to $60,000-ish. So I was not really interested in entertaining that one. And then David shared with me that there is already a contract signed with Skycroft, which is the facility that Strive has been at. There was a substantial increase in that cost that was not, so it was contracted in, hold on, let me get this right. The dates were signed as a contract, but the price came later, which is when David followed up with me with the price increase. So he was asking for, I think, $23,000 for Strive for next year, of course, of the next, and that price would be for FY 20, 21, 22. And I did not feel comfortable with that much for a raise. So 19.5 was actually the middle point between what David was asking and what we were already funding. Also, the MOU is written in a way, so we do have an MOU with the Center for Democracy and Civic Life. The MOU is written in a way that if funds become available for Strive, other programs can be used for this fund. So things like alternative spring break. If there's a cost associated with alternative spring break, again, those programs live with the center now, and they can pull from this money as well. If SGA continues to do programs like election extravaganza or between elections, again, those programs which have benefited 500, 600, 700, 800 people in the past, those events and programs could also pull money from this line item as well. So 19.5, I think the original question is how we got that number, and it was a compromise number. So, yeah.
So this increase is not for them to increase the number of students going to Strive, it's so they can afford the new cost of it. Oh, then it's fine.
Just so another point, so where does anyone know like exactly like what that 16,000 breaks down into, like what parts of Strive like are paid for and stuff?
Like, does it cost money for students to go, or like
what is it? Like, where does the money go? Like,
you have transportation costs, you have food costs, you have...
So the cost that participants pay usually goes to transportation. And then they try to make Strive in a way that if there's a participant cost and it's variable by year, but no one should be excluded from Strive because of that. So there's already built in some savings for scholarships that, if need be to be awarded, can be. So the participant fees basically cover for the transportation costs. But you have 3 meals a day for 5 days and lodging. Then you have the materials and supplies that go into Strive. And then the coaches and staff, they don't pay like a participant fee. And they also get reimbursed for gas mileage because they don't ride the bus up there. So that's where the bulk of the costs come from.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. Like, if described as something that's like a unique experience that is completely beneficial, and you can't be like, it can't be done cheaperly, then
Are we cool moving on to something else? If there's anything else for the volunteers, unless it's any point.
Is there any other part of the agenda that we'd like to look at?
The end.
Is there a motion?
So it's my understanding that we have from SAFRB, they won't sign anything that has anything less than 60,000 for the retreat.
That's what I've been told.
Okay.
Actually, it's not discussion.
Oh, I know you're so upset about it too.
But it is what it is.
All right.
That's nice.
I'd still like to discuss the tree roof, if that's okay.
I think.
All right. Is there a motion?
No, I mean, I'm like.
No, I'm just saying what me personally is one vote.
Second.
So,
Second to yes, talk about it?
No, second.
To move on?
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay. What was our motion?
I think we're just gonna, it was like an informal second.
Also note that when technically, whoever makes the motion for this legislation, you need to say, I move to approve, JR 14-1819 as amended, since you all did amend it.
Thank you.
Well,
Can we borrow that review?
Like.
So
The
we're
conversation.
on it.
Oh, sure. All right. Draw poll. So all senators in favor of discussing the retriever? Well, my vote doesn't really count. Well, when there's only 6 of us.
Oh, then that's a no, right?
Yeah, it's a no.
We didn't pass majority.
All right. Is there a motion to approve?
Oh, motion to approve.
No.
Move to approve. JL 14-18 as amended.
Second.
All right. Number of senators for?
Oh.
What am I voting for?
6.
Budget.
Oh, yes.
Motion.
Sorry, it's gonna.
All right. All right, guys.
Oh, wow.
Motion passes. All right. First budget. Or we approve the budget. All right, cool.
And just like that, all the protests started.
All right. Last thing, so announcements.
Oh, wow.
Brandon.
Student leaders.
hold on. I gotta pull up.
Student advisory committee. Something academic council.
Yeah, you know
something Diane. Can I?
You want me to? Okay. So, at the university retreat, for anyone in this room that went, which was 4,382 years ago, there was a big presentation from Dr. Cole, who is the vice provost of undergraduate academic affairs, so she reports to Provost Rouse. So Dr. Cole, her session was about retention and things to do that like capture basically what does a student look like on campus, or more specifically, what does a successful student look like on campus? And a successful student is someone that comes here and they get their diploma. That is kind of like a bare minimum requirement for undergraduate academic affairs. So Dr. Cole is convening a group of students to discuss academic challenges, to figure out how academic affairs can help mitigate some of those difficulties in working with faculty, and what confused Brandon and even myself. She picked out this name months ago, literally at the university retreat, and then she refers to it as the Student Advisory Committee, which if you're involved with Retreat of Courage can be pretty confusing. But they are different things. So her first meeting is, I just had it.
April 8th at, yes.
And May 13th. So it looks like it's just like
Monday.
That first Monday of the month, or second, yeah, whatever, it was that. But this is a good opportunity to give feedback about how courses can be improved, about how your experience has been with faculty in particular courses, what's worked for you, what's not worked for you. So we need some reps.
Any other announcements?
Tomorrow, semifinals. I'm not hosting it. I just thought I should say it. Like, I feel like we should show some support. Student retention is very important in student events. Well, sports events. Good job, boy.
Sorry,
Wait, can I get?
I dropped the whole pot. I don't
Right. Can I get confirmation? Can anyone go or is interested on the
Monday at free hour.
No.
Really? I don't. Colin, I can volunteer myself.
Huh?
Yes.
Okay, Brandon knows what. Great.
Yes.
I have another announcement.
Yep.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, if you go, please wear SGA shirts. It'd be cool, or wear something black and gold.
What is this
for? Basketball?
Yeah, or wear a black shirt with your name badge.
Men's?
Yes. And in the
Semifinals.
Oh, no shade. I was just saying yes. It was
No.
Oh.
I just didn't.
Yes, it's black and gold. So wear a black shirt, name badge. If you don't have your name badge, SGA shirt. If you don't have either, just be there. All right. And bring a friend.
Oh.
Oh, okay.
Brendan?
I'd really like to have a meeting with all the senators. Personally, maybe like 15 minutes, we can talk about how your SGCs are going. I think it'd be good to check in with all of you.
There's a survey from USMSC that we need to submit, so this would be perfect. And the survey will be submitted to the system about the state of shared governance on our campuses. So I actually might give you a deadline. Because that is something that they are evaluating across the USM right now is the state of shared governance. So if I would suggest sharing with Brandon the good, the bad, and the ugly. University System of Maryland, and USMSC is the University System of Maryland Student Councils. So USM is like UMBC, Towson, College Park, all of us, and one big thing.
So it's like
USMSC, University System of Maryland Student Council.
I was trying to like figure that out in my head.
You got it. You were there.
One big happy family of students.
So yes, please get on my calendar.
You want to talk to us individually?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? All right. Well, with that, I adjourn this meeting at 6:49.